So you've got a bad case of the annoying waist gapes, or a major tear on your number one pair. Well, do not despair for the jeans that you wear, because I've got a quick repair, an alteration trick to share. We should probably start by addressing the literal black hole in the room. Yup, the giant hole in the crotch. That's where a little technique called darning enters the picture. Flip your jeans inside out, and then head over to your grossly overflowing pile of scrap fabrics to scavenge through for the single piece that's just the right color to match your jeans. Make sure it's large enough to cover up the hole, and then have some decent seam allowance on the sides, trimming it so that it understands this assignment. For security purposes, we're going to tack that sucker down into place on the inside of the jeans with a very loose running stitch, aka a basting stitch, so that when we introduce it to the sewing machine, it's got nowhere to run. Flip the jeans right sides out, and then use a regular straight stitch on your sewing machine to close up the hole. So we're going to sew in one direction, following along the grain lines of the fabric, so the stitches sort of blend into the existing fibers. Then, once you reach your self-defined boundary, you're going to lift up the presser foot and move the material slightly to one side and backstitch to the top of the boundary. For my first run over this hole, I'm pretty much just securing the fabric in place so that I can remove the basting stitch. You could choose to leave the basting stitch in since the thread color is the same as the fabric, but I feel like everything will just look a lot neater with this out of the way. Once that's done, it's back to the sewing machine to fill in all the gaps. Following the same grain line, sew up and down with the same presser foot technique. You could actually just push and shift the fabric slightly underneath the foot instead, and you'll get much neater lines, and it's also a lot quicker this way. For extra security, I recommend making a set of stitches along the cross grain, which is 90 degrees to the first set of stitches that you made. And yeah, that's pretty much how you fill in the hole. I'm going to quickly do a couple more smaller holes on my jeans, and then the patching up will be done. Next, to tackle the gaping waistline. Fun fact, all waistbands are actually created equal in the giant tubes community. Some just have drawstrings or elastic running through them like sweatpants, and others are pressed flat and sewn completely shut with nothing inside like jeans. So we're going to exploit this property and convert these into elasticated waist. Grab your magical little seam ripper and rip a small opening into just the inner top layer of the waistband. Do this just a little ways away from the button closure on the front. Make sure not to cut through the top stitching on either side of the waistband. Once this hole is opened, you can then use the scissors to widen it up a bit. Okay, let's replicate this on the other side of the buttonhole. So now that we have full access to the inner bowels of the waistband, with the two openings on either side, grab yourself some elastic. Look at me finding another opportunity to repurpose these elastics from some undergarments. Trim away any of the frayed bits, and then it's time to bring in one of the most powerful tools in your upcycling game. A safety pin. Bang the elastic on the pin and thread the whole thing through your waistband from one hole to the other. Scrunchy method that elastic through the newly discovered waistband tube. You might encounter some resistance, like some real do not pass energy in the form of the label sewn down there in the back. But nothing a young seam rip can't fix. After all, it's a free world. Let your jeans identify as whatever they want to and get rid of any labels. Minor disaster averted. Continue to tunnel that elastic through to the other side where it will make its great escape. The elastic should now be sticking out of both holes, and it'd be wise to keep it that way by pinning them down. It would also be wise to try on your jeans at this point, just to make sure that everything is fitting correctly and that it's cinched to the size that you need it to be. Once the elastic is pulled to your desired snatchness, sew them down with a straight stitch, or you could also use a zigzag stitch, and trim off any of the excess. And that's pretty much it, folks. Your new perfect pair of old jeans. At the end of the day, it's about making clothes work for you and loving your clothes for longer. And these basic fixes really do go a long way when creating your me-made wardrobe. I hope you managed to save those jeans of yours. And if not, it might just be a sign to whip out the seam ripper and take it all apart. And perhaps make a denim patchwork bustier of your own. No? Until next time, keep it jazzy.